Hi everyone, I'm Christian here with the Tanooki, and I'm here with Jason Michael Paul, executive producer of the Legend of Zelda Symphony of the Goddesses 25th Anniversary Concert.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for giving us your time. Now, you've been in the music industry for quite a while. Can you give us a little bit of background? I know you've been with Play, and can you give us a bit of just information on like what you've done?
Sure. Yeah. My career started at a pretty young age. I used to work with Luciano Pavarotti and the Three Tenors as a production manager. That's where I really started my career in terms of music and touring and concert touring, especially in symphonic and operatic type music. And while at the same time I always kind of had my hands in video games, being a native of San Francisco, was pretty much a hotbed. PlayStation was one of my biggest clients, and then ultimately Squaresoft is ultimately where I really started getting more hands-on and doing more productions with the likes of Final Fantasy and a handful of other titles from them. And so I kind of, at that point, I married my two passions, music and video games, and came up with Dear Friends Music from Final Fantasy, which is really where it all began in terms of video game music concerts. And since then, I've successfully produced other shows, which have premiered here in Chicago. Play a Video Game Symphony premiered here. It was a pretty amazing show. We did it at Rosemont Theater, so I have a lot of really magical moments that have taken place here in Chicago, and now I'm back with the Legend of Zelda Symphony of the Goddesses with a sold-out show here at Chicago Theater, so it's a dream come true.
We're glad to have you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what your major instrument is?
Well, I grew up in a pretty musical household. My father was a drummer, so I played a lot of percussion, drums, obviously. Did that, and I also played piano, and I also played guitar.
Now, we're here to talk about the Zelda concert. How exactly did this production materialize?
Well, it was more or less a relationship that I had with Nintendo dating back to 2005, and obviously the 25th anniversary created a lot of opportunity within the Zelda franchise. And at that particular moment, it was the precedent was happening, and they wanted to do something special for the Legend of Zelda. And at that point, I began to work with the team that I had assembled and started to pitch some ideas that we had been brewing around with the idea of a Zelda concert. And the idea had already been in the minds of the folks at Nintendo to do some 25th anniversary concerts, as well as an orchestral CD that would accompany the Skyward Sword launch as part of the bundle, which I was very fortunate enough to work on and produce ultimately for Nintendo. And so with those concerts taking place in Tokyo, LA, and also in London, my company was responsible for producing them, which was an honor as well. And then we saw the success, or at least I saw the success, and it really led to the creation of the Symphony of the Goddesses.
Now, how involved has Nintendo been in this entire process?
They've been very involved. Now that it's at a point of kind of a cruising altitude, we more or less are just kind of running with it. Obviously, gearing up for 2013, we have some pretty ambitious goals that we want to take the country worldwide, as well as to add some new pieces and kind of change the existing program. So it's pretty exciting.
So there will be more in 2013?
I'm pretty confident in saying that, yes.
Now, as a musician in a society pushing core subjects, sometimes at the expense of fine arts, talk about the impact that shows like these have on young fans in terms of getting into performance ensembles or even composition.
Yeah, well, I mean, this really came out of a passion for really bringing in a new audience, and I think that's what we've done. A lot of the fans who come to our shows, it's their first concert experience, let alone a symphony experience. And ultimately, in the end, I think a lot of people are getting a lot of inspiration and motivation to want to see how a passion that they've developed for video games can ultimately lend to a career in music. It's really our focus. I mean, we really believe in this show and bridging the gap between young and old, and hopefully attracting a newer audience into some of these venues and to some of these orchestras that are really dying. I believe we've achieved that, or we are continuing to achieve that.
Now, for the younger fans that will obviously be inspired after this performance, what advice would you have for them as they go into music and music performance and music composition?
Well, I mean, it's funny because the only advice I really have is just like anything else. It's not like sound wisdom. It's pretty much just if you have if you have a passion for something and you have a dream, you know, see it through. You know, don't feel like, you know, you have to. It's going to be carried out by you and you only. If you believe in something and you have a passion for something, you can only get better. You know, and it only comes through practice and desire and drive. You know, and that's something that, you know, I think I'm a perfect example of that. You know, I was not born into, you know, this business, the producing business. It was something that I really worked hard at, something that I really had a lot of drive and desire to do. And ultimately, what started out as being a production assistant has ultimately led me to being the executive producer and boss of my own company and my you know. So my only advice would be just to follow your dream and never to stop. You know, it's interesting because the music director Chad Sider, who works on the show, is, you know, it's funny because his mom always criticized him for playing video games too much, and it's kind of a running joke is that, you know, now his mom's actually seeing what he does and what he's done, and he's credited a career out of it. You know, not only does he compose for games, but he also composes for movies. So I think he's a perfect example of that.
Now you've got a few more confirmed concerts left this year.
Mm-hmm.
For those fans that haven't quite got on board and, you know, decided to come out to see the show, what would you tell them?
Well, you know, I know that some people are a little limited in terms of resources financially. But, you know, if you can't make it to a show this year, you know, I think it's safe to say that there'll be another show coming to the Chicago area in 2013. But if you can make it, not only is it a great experience to come see the show while you can, because the show does change for 2013, but it's also a good opportunity to come meet and be with fellow Zelda fans and to you know, to just take part in this magical tour that we have going through 2012. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your
pleasure.
time. Jason, Michael, Paul.
Right on. Thank you, Christian.
All right, see you guys later.
Right on.